It has been a great pleasure and joy for us to be here with you. You have welcomed us as part of your family. Bishop, thank you so much to everybody who has done everything from pick us up to feed us well and to buy the products. Y'all, we basically sold out. Except for the oils and books. I meant to say that faster. But the oils and books, and the book is the gift book that 100% of the proceeds go to Thistle Farms, and all the images and the stories of Thistle Farms are in that book. And it is a great book to celebrate 20 years of How Love Heals. But we have made friends. I'm coming back. I can't wait to come back. And what I've loved is the idea that you all, how many dioceses have the theme of ministry on the margins? That's the heart of the diocese, the heart of the church, the heart of the gospel. And today we get this beautiful, beautiful reading that reminds us all as we hear these gospel words that we're supposed to do two things as we do this ministry. We're supposed to consider and we're supposed to seek. Consider and seek. For all of you over 50, you might want to say that a couple times to yourself. I'm repeating it just so I remember it for the latter half of the sermon. Consider, seek, consider, seek. I got it. Because this is part of the Sermon on the Mount. This is foundational for how we do ministry on the margins. If we're going out in the world to love our neighbors as ourselves, to love God, we better consider and seek. There's all the things we could do besides doing that. We could be judgmental and dismiss. We could be cynical and frivolous. There's a lot of things you could be. But to be considering and seeking as disciples is somehow at the heart of this. In the midst of injustice and oppression, in the midst of everything we're confronting, we need to consider and seek. Jesus gives hundreds of examples of this in the gospel to the disciples as they leave the Sermon on the Mount and they go out and do their ministry. One of my favorites is from the 9th chapter of John when they run into the blind man. Well, I don't think they run into him, but they meet the blind man. So they meet the blind man, and what people want to be, what the religious folk would like to do is blame and back away. So who's to fault for this man's blindness? Let's figure out the issues. Let's debate. All kinds of things we can do. And Jesus says the only thing that you need to consider is your complacency in the face of the suffering of the world. That's what you need to consider, your complacency in the face of suffering in the world. And then seek whatever is healing. And all they have is dirt and spit. And Jesus says we can make a mud mask. A healing mud mask. It's beautiful. When all you got is dirt and spit and you make something healing. And you keep going, you consider and you seek. And this gospel is all about that today. They are walking into a hostile world. They're an occupied nation. And he doesn't say, let's run away. Let's fight. He says, consider the lilies of the field and the birds of the air. And these aren't like lilies that don our altars or that we hold in wedding bouquets. These are lilies of the field. That is an old plain wildflower. And the birds of the air are the common birds. Consider the most common things that you can think of that have been dismissed by this world. Consider them and think about how blessed you are. That's what we're asking for in this gospel, to hear again. Think of those things and think how blessed you are, how rich it is, how wonderful it is, and how even Solomon in all his glory is not arrayed like one of these. So we can think of whatever those common things are that we're faced with every day. The poverty of this world. For us, it's been thistles. I've been considering those thistles for 20 years. I swear it needs to go on my tombstone. Consider the thistles. You know, I've considered them and considered them and considered them. I've considered their healing properties. I've considered how they've been labeled a noxious weed. I've considered how they grow all over the world. And when you become a thistle farmer, there's nowhere you can go that they cannot grow. And that they're shared beautifully, and they're a reminder of how everything in this kingdom is part of the glory of God's creation. Nothing needs to be condemned or left behind. For me, the birds of the air are starlings, no question. How they're invasive. How people can't get rid of them, and how they're disdained, and how beautiful and iridescent they are. And how they can fill a tree and change it to look like it's fruit. They're amazing. What are your lilies? What are your birds of the air that you need to consider when you say, and we consider the ministries that the bishop talked about so beautifully yesterday, to all the people and all the work that we do? What do you need to consider, and what do you need to seek? So Thursday night, we go out to the prison, just down the road, and we start talking about community, the possibility for women in this city. What does community look like, even inside the prison walls? How do we come together in community to do the healing work? And 3 women came up, running up to me in the middle of the service, not in the middle of the sermon, in the middle of the service, and said, "It's a sign that you're here. 2 weeks ago, we made a thistle flower. And then we got this notice that you were coming, and it was called Thistle Farms. We know it's a sign." And I said, "Go get it. I want to see it." One of the women ran back to the pod area where they sleep, about 100 women in a place. And she came back, and all she had was this plain lily. She said, "I can't find the thistle. This is all I got." Now, this is made from rolled up bread that they serve in the prison, that they roll up and then roll out and turn into a flower. The stem is made from a newspaper rolled up, and it's sealed with creamer from their coffee. And I said, "I think the sign is for me." Consider this lily of the field. Consider the poverty of that. Consider the hope of that, the tenacity of it, of 3 women who sell these flowers to other inmates to hand to visitors as they come, so they know that there's still life and goodness within those prison walls. Consider the 4,000 women just down the road from us. Consider all the places that we need to seek the kingdom. Think of the richness and how Solomon in all of his glory is not arrayed like one of these, and how we do not need to worry if we seek that kingdom in the places that have been abandoned. This is a rich place. You all are seekers. You have considered so much, and there is so much work to do. So I brought some oils. Everywhere in the gospel where people need to seek and consider, the other thing that's always present is oils. There's like 425 scriptures with oils in them. For any occasion, what you need to do is put oil on yourself. If you're ever in doubt, somebody dies, somebody's born, somebody's getting married, somebody's going to be king, just go get the oils immediately. These oils are made by the women survivors in Rwanda, who went back out to the fields after 1 million people were killed and planted healing geranium, patchouli, lemongrass, and eucalyptus. And they harvest them and they bring them over. They're shipped over to Thistle Farms, where another group of women who have known the underside of bridges, the poverty inside the prison walls, the fear and the anger of the backside of a hand. just the short-sightedness of so many people. And they print Love Heals on it and they blend them. And we offer you these oils today to remind yourself as you leave this place to consider and seek again. We're going to have them in the back for you back there for anybody that wants to be a part of that and remember that at the end of the service. Amen.